The morning sun rose over the colony of New Eden, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. Twin suns meant double the warmth, and the people who lived there loved it. Children ran through the green fields laughing and playing. Families gathered in the central square for the annual Founding Day celebration. It had been 50 years since the first humans arrived on this distant world, and they had built something beautiful. Maria Santos watched her daughter Elena chase butterflies through the tall grass. The insects were not from Earth. Of course, they had 6 wings instead of 4, and they glowed softly in the sunlight, but Elena called them butterflies anyway, and Maria did not correct her. Some things were universal. "Mama, look," Elena shouted, pointing at the sky. "Shooting stars." Maria looked up and smiled, but then her smile faded. The lights in the sky were not shooting stars, they were moving too slowly, and there were too many of them. They were getting bigger. Ships, dozens of ships, hundreds of ships. The emergency sirens began to scream. Across the galaxy, the Valkyrie Dominion was known and feared. They had conquered 47 species over the past 1,000 years. Their empire stretched across 300 star systems, and their warriors were legendary. They believed that strength was the only law that mattered, and they had never lost a war. High Warlord Tethran stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Crimson Dawn, and watched the human colony grow larger on his viewing screen. He felt nothing but contempt. These humans were weak. They had only 12 colony worlds. Their military was small and primitive. They would learn their place just like all the others had learned. "Begin they attack," he ordered. His voice was calm. This was not a battle to him. It was a lesson. The first plasma bombs hit the central square where the Founding Day celebration was taking place. The explosions turned the morning into fire and screaming. Buildings collapsed. People ran in every direction, but there was nowhere safe to run. But then something unexpected happened. The humans fought back. They did not have warships. They did not have military weapons, but they had mining lasers and farming equipment, and the desperate courage of people protecting their homes. The colonial militia, only 300 men and women, took positions around the main settlement. They knew they could not win. They fought anyway. For 11 hours they held the line. Every time the Valkyrie pushed forward, the humans pushed back. They used everything they had. They turned tractors into battering rams. They turned fertilizer into explosives. They fought in the streets and in the buildings and in the fields where children had played just hours before. High Warlord Tethran watched with growing anger. This was not supposed to happen. Lesser species were supposed to surrender. They were supposed to beg for mercy. These humans did neither. Destroy them all, he commanded. Leave no survivors. The order went out to his fleet. The bombardment that followed was absolute. By the time the twin suns set that evening, the colony of New Eden existed only memory. The buildings were ash. The fields were craters. The 2.3 million people who had called this world home were gone. Maria Santos died holding her daughter Elena in her arms, shielding her with her body, even though she knew it would not be enough. Her last thought was of Earth, the planet she had never seen but had heard so many stories about. She hoped someone there would remember them. High Warlord Tethran broadcast the destruction across every communication channel in the galaxy. He wanted everyone to see what happened to species that expanded without permission. He wanted humanity to understand that resistance was pointless. He expected fear. He expected surrender. He did not understand humans at all. The message reached Earth 7 hours later. Admiral Samira Chin was in her office at United Earth Defense Command when her communications officer burst through the door. His face was pale and his hands were shaking. He could not speak. He simply handed her a data pad and stepped back. Samira watched the footage. Silent, she saw the ships descend. She saw the bombs fall. She saw the people running, fighting, dying. She saw a mother holding her child as fire consumed them both. She saw everything. When the footage ended, she sat very still for a long moment. Around her, officers wept openly. Politicians shouted at each other through communication screens, demanding answers that no one had. The whole of humanity seemed to be screaming in grief and rage. But Samira did not scream. She did not weep. She felt something colder than grief, something sharper than rage. She felt certainty. She stood and walked to the window of her office outside the city of Geneva. Spread beneath her, peaceful and unaware, children were playing in the parks below. Families were having dinner. People were living their ordinary lives, not yet knowing that everything had changed. She thought about history. She thought about all the times humanity had faced enemies who believed them weak. She thought about the wars they had survived, the tyrants they had overthrown, the empires they had outlasted. She thought about what her grandmother had told her when she was a little girl: never start a fight, Samira, but if someone else starts one, you finish it. The Valkyrie had started a fight. Now humanity would finish it. The United Earth Council met that night in emergency session. The Great Hall was filled with the leaders of every nation and colony, all of them united for the first time in decades by shared horror. They argued about what to do. Some wanted to negotiate. Some wanted to appeal to the galactic community. Some wanted to wait and see. Admiral Chen waited for them to finish. Then she stood and walked to the podium. The room fell silent. You have all seen the footage, she said. Her voice was calm and steady, but there was something in it that made everyone listen. You have seen what the Valkyrie did to New Eden. You have seen the bodies of our people. You have seen the fire and the death and the destruction. She paused and looked around the room. The Valkyrie believe we will negotiate. They believe we will plead for mercy. They believe we will accept whatever terms they offer because we are afraid. They believe this because every other species they have encountered has done exactly that. Her eyes were hard as stone. They are wrong. She pressed the button and images appeared on every screen in the hall. Star maps, fleet positions, things that had been classified at the highest levels for decades. For 200 years we have prepared for this day, not because we wanted war, but because we remembered our history. We remembered what happens to peoples who cannot defend themselves. We built ships in secret. We trained soldiers in silence. We developed weapons that the galaxy has never seen. We did this because we knew that someday someone would mistake our peaceful nature for weakness. She let the images sink in. The Valkyrie have conquered 47 species. They have never faced an enemy like us. They do not understand what they have awakened. They do not understand that humans do not surrender. They do not understand that when you kill our children, we do Not negotiate, we do not forget, we do. Not forgive, she straightened her shoulders. I am asking this council for authorization to mobilize every resource. We have every ship, every soldier, every factory, every man and woman who can hold a weapon or build a bomb or fly a shuttle. Total war, complete commitment, no negotiation, no retreat, no mercy for those who showed our people none. The room was absolutely silent. They started this war, Admiral Chen said. Her voice filled the hall. They thought we were prey. They thought we would break. They were wrong. Now they will learn what humanity truly is. Now they will face Earth. The vote was unanimous. Within hours the mobilization began. Hidden shipyards and asteroid belts activated their production lines. Mothball warships received fresh crews. Reserve soldiers who had returned to civilian life received a single message on their personal devices: your species needs you. 18 million humans volunteered for military service in the first 72 hours. Across the galaxy, the elder races watched with detached amusement. The mathematics seemed obvious to them. The Valkyrie had 300 star systems and thousands of warships. Humanity had 12 colonies and a modest fleet. The outcome was certain, but mathematics did not account for rage. Mathematics did not account for grief. Mathematics did not account for the particular madness that seized humans when someone hurt their families. The galaxy was about to learn something important. The Valkyrie had won 47 wars through fear and overwhelming force. They had never faced an enemy who was not afraid. They had never faced humanity. In her quarters that night, Admiral Chen stood before a mirror and looked at her reflection. She thought about the mother holding her child in the footage. She thought about all the people who had died on New Eden, all the dreams that had ended, all the futures that would never be. I will remember you, she whispered. I will remember all of you, and I will make them pay. Outside her window, the first troop transports were already lifting off into the night sky, carrying humanity's answer to the stars. The war had begun. High Warlord Tethran sat in his command chamber and reviewed the reports from his intelligence officers. The humans were mobilizing. They said building ships, training soldiers, preparing for war. He laughed. Let them prepare, he said to his advisors. Let them build their little fleet. It will make our victory more complete. When we crush them, the galaxy will see that resistance against the Valkyrie is hopeless. His advisors nodded in agreement. They had seen this story before. 47 times conquered species had tried to fight back. 47 times they had failed. The humans would be no different, but Tethran did not know what was happening in the dark spaces between stars. He did not know about the shipyards hidden inside hollow asteroids. He did not know about the weapons laboratories disguised as mining stations. He did not know about the generations of quiet preparation that humanity had undertaken while smiling peacefully at the galaxy. He did not know because humanity had never told anyone. In the asteroid belt of the Sol system, a mountain of rock began to move. It was not really a mountain, it was a door behind it. Lights flickered to life for the first time in decades. Machines that had been sleeping began to wake. Production lines started moving. Robots that had waited patiently in the darkness received their orders and began to work. The Prometheus shipyard had been built in secret 80 Years ago, hidden inside an asteroid so large that no one had ever thought to look inside. It could produce 12 warships per month. It was one of 17 such facilities scattered throughout human space. Similar scenes played out across the colonies. On Mars, underground factories began manufacturing weapons. On Titan, fuel refineries increased their output by 300%. On Europa, training facilities that had pretended to be research stations began teaching soldiers the art of war. The humans had been preparing for this moment since they first reached the stars. They had looked at the galaxy and seen the truth that so many species missed. The universe was not a peaceful place. It was full of empires like the Valkyrie, powers that took what they wanted and destroyed anyone who resisted. Humanity had decided long ago that they would not be easy prey. They had just never told anyone. Captain Marcus Webb received his orders on a Tuesday morning. He was a teacher now, retired from military service after 20 years. He taught history to children at a small school in the colony of New Brisbane. He had thought his fighting days were over. The message was simple. 3 words: report for duty. He kissed his wife goodbye. He hugged his children. He told them he loved them and that he would come home when the war was over. Then he walked out the door and did not look back. Across human space, 18 million people did the same thing. They left their jobs, their homes, their families. They answered the call because they knew what was at stake. The Valkyrie had killed millions of innocent people. If humanity did not stop them, they would kill millions more. Captain Webb was assigned to the 7th Assault Squadron, a fast attack group consisting of 12 ships. Their first mission was simple. A Valkyrie supply convoy was moving through the Kepler system, carrying weapons and ammunition to the front lines. The convoy had light protection because the Valkyrie did not think humans could reach them this far into conquered space. They were wrong. The 7th Squadron had traveled for 3 weeks through uncharted space, using routes that no alien species knew existed. They had shut down all their systems and drifted silently through the void, invisible to any sensor. They had eaten cold food and breathed recycled air and waited in the darkness like predators stalking their prey. When the convoy appeared, Captain Webb gave a single order: attack. The battle lasted 4 minutes. The Valkyrie escort ships tried to respond, but they were too slow. Human weapons hit them from angles they did not expect. Human ships moved in ways they had never seen. By the time the Valkyrie commander realized what was happening, his ships were already burning. There were no survivors. Captain Webb looked at the wreckage floating in space and felt nothing. No guilt, no satisfaction, just cold determination. This was the beginning. There was so much more to do. Send a message to command, he said. Mission complete. Moving to secondary target. When High Warlord Tethron received the report, he threw the data pad across the room. Supply convoy destroyed. 18 ships lost. All hands killed. Impossible. The humans did not have ships that far or behind Valkyrie lines. The humans did not have the technology to defeat Valkyrie warships so quickly. The humans were primitive. It was luck, he told his advisors. Nothing more. We will crush them. He ordered 3 invasion fleets to strike human space simultaneously. The first fleet would attack the colony of New Brisbane. The second fleet would attacked the industrial world of Forge. The Third Fleet would attack Proxima Station, humanity's largest military base. He would end this war in weeks. But Admiral Samira Chen was watching. Human intelligence networks had grown deep roots in alien space over the past 2 centuries. She knew the Valkyrie plans before their own captains did, and she smiled when she saw them splitting their forces. They still do not understand, she said to her staff. They think this is a war of conquest. They think they can take our worlds and we will surrender. They do not realize that we will never surrender. They do not realize that every world they take will cost them more than they gain. She pulled up strategic displays showing human fleet positions. Her ships were outnumbered, but they were not outmatched. Human engineers had spent decades studying alien technology and finding its weaknesses. Human tacticians had spent decades developing strategies that no alien species had ever seen. Human soldiers had spent decades training for exactly this moment. We let them come. Admiral Chen said, we let them think they are winning, and then we show them what humanity can do when we stop holding back. The Battle of New Brisbane was the first major engagement of the war. The Valkyrie First Fleet arrived, expecting to find a defended colony. Instead, they found empty space. Humans had evacuated the entire population in 3 days, moving 2 million people to hidden shelters deep underground. When the Valkyrie landed their troops, they found abandoned cities and silent streets. Then the traps began. Buildings that looked empty exploded when Valkyrie soldiers entered. Roads that looked safe collapsed into spike-filled pits. Vehicles that looked abandoned were actually bombs waiting for targets. The humans had turned their own colony into a death maze. The Valkyrie commander called for reinforcements. More troops landed. More troops died. For every human defender killed, 10 Valkyrie soldiers fell. The warriors who had conquered 47 species found themselves fighting an enemy who melted into shadows and struck without warning. After 2 weeks, the Valkyrie controlled New Brisbane in name only. Their soldiers were afraid to leave their bases. Their officers were dying to invisible snipers. Their supply lines were being cut by civilians who had become warriors overnight. They had won the battle and lost the war. Similar stories came from every front. At Forge, human workers had sabotaged their own factories before the Valkyrie arrived, then disappeared into the wilderness to wage a guerrilla campaign. At Proxima Station, the humans had done something even more shocking. They destroyed it themselves. The moment the Valkyrie Third Fleet entered the system, Proxima Station exploded. Hidden anti-air charges detonated in a chain reaction that consumed the station and everything around it. 60% of the Valkyrie fleet was destroyed in seconds. The survivors fled in panic. High Warlord Teethrun could not understand it. The humans had destroyed their own military base rather than let it be captured. What kind of species did such things? He did not know that the station had been evacuated days before. He did not know that the humans had planned this from the beginning. He did not know that in human history there was a name for this strategy: scorched earth. If you cannot hold something, make sure your enemy gains nothing from taking it. The war was 3 months old and the Valkyrie were losing. In her command center, Admiral Chen reviewed the latest casualty reports. Thousands of humans had died, brave men and women who had given everything to protect their species. She felt the weight of every loss, but she also saw the enemy losses. For every human who fell, 5 already died. The mathematics were changing. The impossible was becoming possible. A communication officer approached her desk. Admiral, we have intercepted a Valkyrie transmission. Their High Council is meeting to discuss the war. Admiral Chen took the report and read it carefully. The Valkyrie were confused. They were arguing among themselves for the first time in their history. They were facing an enemy who did not behave as expected. Good, she thought. Confusion is the first step toward defeat. She stood and walked to the strategic display, looking at the map of human space and Valkyrie territory. The enemy still had more ships, more soldiers, more resources. But war was not just about numbers. It was about will. It was about making the enemy understand that victory would cost them more than they could ever afford to pay. The humans understood this. The Valkyrie were only beginning to learn. Continue all operations. Admiral Chen ordered. Increase pressure on their supply lines, expand our intelligence network in their territory, and begin planning for the next phase. The next phase. Admiral, outside the windows of her command center, a new fleet was forming. Ships fresh from the hidden shipyards, crews trained in the art of war, weapons designed to break empires. Humanity was just getting started, and the galaxy was beginning to pay attention. The ambassador from the Valkyrie Dominion arrived at the neutral station with 20 guards and an attitude of supreme confidence. His name was Cathver, and he had negotiated the surrender of 12 species during his long career. He knew how these things worked. The weaker side made noise for a while. Then they accepted reality. He expected the humans to accept reality. Admiral Chen met him in a gray conference room with no windows. She wore her uniform without decoration. She carried no weapons. She sat across from him with her hands folded on the table and waited for him to speak. Admiral Chen Kth4 began, his translator turning his words into smooth English. The Dominion recognizes your species has shown unexpected resistance. We are prepared to be generous. Accept vassal status under our empire. You will maintain limited self-governance. Only 50% of your population will be relocated to labor camps. Your children will be educated in our ways. In 3 generations, humans will be productive members of society. He smiled, showing too many teeth. This is more than we offered the Trankali. More than we offered the Sorvan. You should be grateful. Admiral Chen did not move. She did not blink. She sat in perfect silence for a long moment, letting the quiet grow uncomfortable. Ambassador, she finally said, do you know what happened at New Eden? Your colony was disciplined for expanding without permission. 2.3 million people were murdered, men, women, children, families who had never raised a weapon against anyone. They were burned alive in their homes while your High Warlord watched and laughed. Kefworth shifted in his seat. Casualties in war are regrettable. It was not war, it was massacre, and you expect us to surrender to the species that did it. Admiral Chen leaned forward. Let me explain something to you, Ambassador. In human history, we have faced many enemies who believed they could break our spirit through terror. They burned our cities. They killed our people. They thought we would submit. Do you know what happened to them? She did. Not wait for him to answer, we destroyed them, every single one. It took years, sometimes decades, generations, but we never stopped, we never surrendered, we never forgot. The empires that tried to crush humanity are dust now. The tyrants who murdered our people are forgotten. But we are still here. Her voice was quiet but carried the weight of absolute certainty. You offer us slavery and call it generosity. You offer to steal half our people and expect gratitude. You do not understand us at all. We will never surrender to you. We will never stop fighting. Even if you kill every human being alive today, our children's children will rise from the ashes and continue the war. That is what you awaken when you destroyed New Eden. KTH4's confidence was fading. He had negotiated with many species. None had ever spoken to him like this. The mathematics of this war favor us, he said, but his voice was less certain. Now you cannot win. Admiral Chen smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. We do not need to win, Ambassador. We just need to make your victory cost more than you can afford. Every world you take will drain your resources. Every battle you fight will kill your warriors. Every year this war continues, your empire will grow weaker while ours grows stronger. You started this war expecting it to end quickly. It will not end quickly. It may never end. She stood up. Take this message back to your high warlord. There will be no surrender. There will be no negotiation. There will be no peace until every person responsible for New Eden faces justice. Tell him that humanity has a long memory and infinite patience. Tell him that he made a mistake he cannot undo. She walked to the door, then paused, and tell him that when this war ends, it will not be humans who are begging for mercy. She left the ambassador sitting alone in the empty room, his confidence shattered into pieces too small to rebuild. The broadcast of Admiral Chen's rejection went across human space within hours. Every colony, every ship, every soldier heard her words. They heard her refuse surrender with absolute conviction. They heard her promise that humanity would never stop fighting. Recruitment doubled overnight, but Admiral Chen knew that defiance alone would not win the war. She needed something more. She needed to break the Valkyrie will to fight just as they had tried to break humanity's will at New Eden. She called her intelligence officers together and gave them new orders. We are going to tell the truth, she said. Not propaganda, not lies, just the truth. We are going to make sure every citizen of the Valkyrie Dominion sees exactly what their government did at New Eden. We are going to make them watch and ask themselves if this is what they want their empire to be. Campaign began 3 days later. Human transmissions penetrated Valkyrie space, carrying images from New Eden before the attack. Families celebrating founding day, children playing in green fields. Mother named Maria Santos teaching her daughter Elena to identify butterflies. Normal people living normal lives. Then the transmissions showed what happened next. The ships descending, the bombs falling, the fire and the screaming and the death. They showed Maria Santos holding Elena as the flames consumed them both. The transmissions did not ask for anything. They did not demand anything. They simply showed the truth and let the Valkyrie people decide what it meant. On Valkyrie worlds far from the front lines, citizens began to whisper. They had been told the humans were dangerous aggressors who threatened the Dominion. They had been told the attack on New Eden was necessary defense. Now, they were seeing something different. They were seeing murdered children and burning homes in an empire that called. Massacre discipline. Why did we attack them? The question spread from person to person, quiet at first, then louder. What did they do to us? Why are our warriors dying for this? High Warlord Tethran ordered the transmissions. Blocked. His technicians tried, but human engineers were clever. The signals came through anyway, changing frequency, bouncing off satellites, finding every crack in Valkyrie censorship. The warrior caste was affected too. They had been raised on stories of glorious conquest, honorable battle, worthy enemies, defeated in fair combat, but there was no honor in New Eden. There was no glory in killing children. Some warriors began to question. Some began to doubt, and on the battlefield the humans kept winning. It was not supposed to be possible. The Valkyrie had superior numbers and superior technology, but the humans fought differently than any species they had encountered. Human soldiers did not retreat when they were outnumbered. Human ships did not surrender when they were damaged. Human commanders did not behave rationally. In one battle, a human cruiser with a destroyed engine flew directly into the center of a Valkyrie formation and detonated its reactor. The explosion destroyed 3 enemy ships and damaged 4 more. The human crew knew they were going to die. They chose to make their death count. In another engagement, human ground forces held a strategically worthless hill for 2 weeks against overwhelming odds. When Valkyrie commanders finally took the position, they found nothing of value. They had lost 400 warriors to capture empty ground. Later they learned the humans had been buying time for civilian evacuations on the other side of the continent. The Valkyrie could not understand it. They fought for territory and resources and power. They surrendered when defeat was certain, because death served no purpose. But humans fought for something else. They fought for their people. They fought for their homes. They fought for the memory of New Eden and the promise that it would never happen again. 6 months into the war, High Warlord Tethran called a meeting of his senior commanders. For the first time, he did not speak of easy victory. For the first time, he admitted that the humans were a serious threat. We have lost 60,000 warriors, he said, his voice heavy. Our production facilities are being sabotaged by human agents. Our supply lines are under constant attack. Our citizens are asking questions that have no good answers. This war is not proceeding as planned. His advisors looked at each other nervously. None of them wanted to speak the truth. Finally, one old commander found the courage. High Warlord, we underestimated them. The humans are not like other species. They do not think like us. They do not fight like us. They do not surrender like us. We may need to consider alternatives. Tethran's eyes narrowed. What alternatives? Negotiation, peace. Perhaps we could withdraw to our original borders. And no, the word was absolute. I will not be the first High Warlord in 400 years to retreat from lesser beings. We will find their weaknesses. We will crush them eventually. But even as he spoke, doubt had entered his heart. He remembered watching the New Eden footage with satisfaction, believing he was teaching humanity its place. Now he wondered if he had made the worst mistake of his life. He did not know that Admiral Chen was already planning the next phase of the war. He did not know that human shipyards were building a fleet unlike anything the galaxy had seen. He did not know that humanity was preparing to carry the war to Valkyrie space. He did not know that his home world would soon see human ships in its sky. In her command center, Admiral Chen reviewed the latest reports with quiet satisfaction. The enemy was confused. The enemy was weakening. The enemy was beginning to understand that this war would not end with human surrender, but understanding was not enough. She needed to make them feel what humanity had felt. She needed to bring the war to their doorstep. She needed to show them that nowhere was safe, that their power could not protect them, that they would face the consequences of their choices. She looked at the star map showing the location of Velkar Prime, the heart of the enemy empire. It was heavily defended. The journey would be dangerous. Many would die, but the memory of New Eden demanded an answer, and humanity always answered. Begin preparations for Operation Homecoming. She ordered. We are going to visit the Valkyrie capital. Her officers looked at her with a mixture of fear and determination. They knew what she was proposing. They knew the cost. Admiral Chen stood before the United Earth Council for the second time since the war began. The first time she had asked for permission to fight. This time she was asking for something far more dangerous. Operation Homecoming, she said, activating the holographic display. The star map showed a red line stretching from human space deep into Valkyrie territory, ending at a bright point labeled Velkar Prime, a direct strike on the enemy home world. Council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The Secretary General leaned forward. Admiral, Velkar Prime is the most heavily defended world in their empire. Their home fleet alone outnumbers our entire military. What you are proposing is not just dangerous, it sounds like suicide. It would be, Admiral Chen agreed, if our goal was conquest, but conquest is not our goal. Our goal is to deliver a message. She changed the display showing intelligence reports and fleet movements. 8 months ago, the Valkyrie came to our space and murdered millions of innocent people. They did this because they believed we could not touch them. They believed their empire was invincible. They believed their home world was beyond our reach. Her voice hardened. I intend to prove them wrong. Not by destroying Valkar Prime, not by killing their civilians. We are not like them, but by appearing above their capital world with a fleet that has punched through every defense they have. I will force them to understand something crucial. Nowhere is safe from us. Nothing can protect them. If they continue this war, they will lose everything. The Secretary General studied the star map with worried eyes. And if they do not surrender, then we withdraw and continue the war. Their people will know that their government cannot protect them. Their military will know that our ships can reach their homes. The fear will spread, and fear, properly applied, can break empires more effectively than any weapon. The council debated for 6 hours. Some argued that the risk was too great. Some argued that the fleet would be destroyed before reaching its target. Some argued that they should continue the defensive strategy that had worked so well, but others remembered New Eden. Others remembered the footage of burning children and laughing Vivalari commanders. Others remembered that sometimes justice required taking risks. That seemed impossible. The vote passed by 3 votes. Admiral Chen began assembling her fleet the next morning. The preparation took 2 months. Every available warship was assigned to the mission. Every crew was composed entirely of volunteers who understood they might not return. Every detail was planned, reviewed, and planned again. The fleet would travel through uncharted space, avoiding all known Valkyrie patrols. They would maintain complete communication silence for the entire journey. They would carry enough supplies to be self-sufficient for 6 months because there would be no resupply, no reinforcement, no rescue if something went wrong. 400 ships, 200,000 crew members, all of them willing to die for the chance to show the Valkyrie what humanity could do. Captain Marcus Webb stood on the bridge of his ship, the UES Defiance, and watched the fleet assemble. His vessel was part of the forward assault group, the ships that would lead the attack and likely take the heaviest casualties. He had volunteered without hesitation. His executive officer, Lieutenant Commander Sarah Park, stood beside him. She was young, barely 30, but she had already proven herself in a dozen engagements. She had lost her brother at New Eden. Captain, she said quietly, do you think we can actually do this? Webb considered the question carefully. He had been a soldier for most of his life. He knew the odds. He knew that many of the people around him would not survive the journey. I think we have to try, he said finally, not because success is certain, but because some things are worth the risk. My grandfather used to tell me stories about Earth history, about times when ordinary people faced impossible odds for something they believed in. Most of them did not expect to win. They fought anyway because giving up was worse than dying. He looked at the fleet stretching across the starfield. The Valkyrie think we are animals. Lieutenant, they think we will eventually accept their rule because that is what weak species do. We are going to show them that humans are not weak. We are not animals. We are the people who walked through fire and kept walking. We are the people who faced extinction and refused to die. We are the people who will never ever surrender. Sarah nodded slowly. For New Eden, she said. For New Eden, Webb agreed, and for everyone who comes after us. The fleet departed on a Tuesday morning, Earth time. Admiral Chen's flagship, the UES Remembrance, led the formation. The name was deliberate. Everything they did was in remembrance of the people who had died. The journey took 6 weeks, 6 weeks of silence and darkness and waiting, 6 weeks of running drills and checking systems and preparing for a battle that might kill them all, 6 weeks of watching the stars drift past and wondering if they would ever see Earth again. Admiral Chen spent most of her time reviewing tactical scenarios and studying enemy fleet movements, but sometimes late at night when her ship was quiet, she would sit alone in her quarters and look at a photograph she kept in her personal files. It was a picture of her daughter taken 3 years ago on her 10th birthday. The girl was smiling, holding a cake covered with pink frosting. She was safe on Earth now, living with her grandmother while her mother fought a war across the galaxy. Samira had promised to come home. She intended to keep that promise, but she also knew that some promises could not be kept. That war demanded sacrifices from everyone, that she might never see that smile again except in memory. She thought about Maria Santos, the mother from New Eden who had died. Holding her daughter, she thought about all the parents who had lost children. That day, all the children who had lost parents, all the families destroyed by Valkyrie arrogance. This is why we fight, she told herself. This is why we risk everything, not for revenge, not for glory, but so no other mother has to die protecting her child from murderers. The fleet crossed into Valkyrie space. On the 43rd day of the journey, they encountered their first patrol. On day 47, a group of 6 Valkyrie scouts detected the human fleet and moved to intercept. Admiral Chen ordered complete destruction, no survivors, no warnings. The scouts vanished without sending a single transmission. Similar encounters happened 4 more times during the final week. Each time, human ships moved with speed and precision, eliminating the enemy before they could alert the main defenses. Each time the fleet pressed forward without pause. On the 51st day, they reached the outer defenses of the Velkar system. Admiral Chen stood on her bridge and looked at the tactical display. Between her fleet and the enemy home world lay over 1,000 Valkyrie warships, the largest concentration of military power in the history of the Dominion. The home fleet that had never been defeated. Her 400 ships seemed very small. Admiral, her communications officer, reported. The Valkyrie are hailing us. They are demanding we surrender immediately. Ignore them. They say they will destroy us if we do not comply. Admiral Chen smiled slightly. They can try. She opened a channel to the entire fleet. All ships, this is Admiral Chen. You know why we are here. You know what we are fighting for. The enemy outnumbers us. The enemy believes they will destroy us, but they do not understand what they are facing. She paused, looking at the faces of her officers around the bridge. They were afraid. They were determined. They were ready. We are not fighting for territory or resources. We are fighting for the memory of New Ian. We are fighting for every child who died that day. We are fighting for every parent who lost a family. We are fighting to show the galaxy that humanity cannot be broken by terror and massacre. Her voice rose. Today we carry the war to the enemy's doorstep. Today we prove that nowhere is beyond our reach. Today we make them understand what it means to face Earth. Some of us will not survive, but what we do here will echo through history. Our children and our children's children will remember this day as the moment humanity proved it would never surrender. She straightened in her command chair. All ships battle formation, prepare to attack. Across the fleet, crews moved to their stations. Weapons powered up, engines roared to full power. 400 ships of humanity faced over 1,000 ships of the mightiest empire in the galaxy, and they attacked. The Battle of Velkar Prime was the largest space engagement in galactic history. Human ships dove into the enemy formation with reckless courage, targeting command vessels and defensive stations with precise strikes. Valkyrie ships swarmed to intercept, their plasma cannons filling space with deadly fire. Ships on both sides exploded, crews died in fire and vacuum. The darkness of space lit up with weapons fire and burning wreckage. Captain Webb led his assault group straight into the heart of the enemy fleet. The Defiance took hit after hit, but kept firing, kept moving, kept fighting. Around him, he watched sister ships fall, their crews giving everything for the mission. Hold the line, he ordered through gritted teeth. Give the Admiral her opening. The battle raged for 2 hours. When it finally ended, the human fleet had been reduced to 47 ships. But behind them, over 300 Valkyrie vessels drifted as burning wreckage, and ahead of them the path to Velkar Prime lay open. Admiral Chen looked at the damage reports and felt the weight of every ship lost. Every life ended, but she also saw the enemy home world growing larger on her screen. She had gotten through. Against all odds she had reached her destination, set course for the capital city. She ordered, "It is time to deliver our message." The UES Remembrance descended through the atmosphere of Velkar Prime. Alone, the time for talking was almost here. The sky above the Valkyrie capital city had never known fear before. For 400 years, the citizens of Velkar Prime had lived in perfect safety. Their empire was invincible. Their military was unmatched. No enemy had ever reached their home world until today. The human warship descended through the clouds like a dark omen. Its hull was scarred with battle damage. Its weapons were charged and ready. It moved slowly, deliberately, making sure every citizen could see it clearly as it took position above the central government complex. High Warlord Tetron stood in his command center and watched the impossible happen. His hands were shaking around him. His advisors were screaming orders, demanding reports, trying to understand how human ship had penetrated every defense the Dominion possessed. Destroy it, Tron roared. Shoot it down. We cannot. High Warlord, his military commander replied, his voice hollow with shock. If we fire missiles at that altitude, the debris will fall on the capital. Millions of our people would die. Then send fighters. We have no fighters left. High Warlord, they were all deployed to stop the human fleet. The ones that survived are still returning from orbit. Tathrin stared at the viewing screen at the battered human ship hovering above his city like a judgment from ancient gods. He had started this war believing humanity was weak. He had ordered the destruction of New Eden believing it would teach them submission. He had sent his fleets to crush them believing victory was inevitable. He had been wrong about everything. Admiral Samira Chen stood on the bridge of the Remembrance and looked down at the alien city spread beneath her. Millions of Valkyrie were looking up at her ship, seeing their worst nightmare made real. This moment had cost so much. Hundreds of ships, thousands of lives, 8 months of blood and fire and sacrifice. But they had made it. They had carried the war to the enemy's doorstep. Now it was time to speak. Open all channels, she ordered. Every frequency, every communication network on this planet, every diplomatic channel in the galaxy. I want everyone to hear this. Her communications officer worked quickly. Within seconds, every screen on Velkar Prime displayed the same image. Every communication device in the Dominion carried the same broadcast. Every species in the galaxy watched as Admiral Chen appeared before them. She was tired. Her uniform was wrinkled from days without sleep. There were shadows under her eyes and gray in her hair that had not been there a year ago, but her voice was strong and clear as she began to speak. High Warlord Tethrin, leaders of the Velkar Dominion, hear me now. She paused, letting the weight of the moment settle over her audience. 8 months ago, your empire attacked the human colony of New Eden. You killed 2.3 million people, men, women, children, families who had never raised a weapon against you. You did this without warning, without provocation, without Mercy, you did this because you believed. We were weak, you did this because you believed we would submit. Her voice grew harder. You were wrong, she gestured at her ship, at the city below, at everything around her. I stand above your home world with a fleet that has crossed the galaxy to reach you. We have passed through your defenses. We have broken your armadas. We have proven that there is no fortress we cannot breach, no world we cannot touch, no place in your empire that is safe from our reach. She let those words sink in. I could order the bombardment of your cities right now. I could repay massacre with massacre. By your own laws of warfare I would be justified. Your high warlord showed our children no mercy. I could show your children the same cruelty he showed ours. Below the ship, millions of Valkyrie held their breath. Parents gathered their children close. Families waited for the fire they were certain was coming, but Admiral Chen shook her head slowly. I will not do that. We will not do that because we are not you. Her voice softened but lost none of its power. Humanity does not make war on innocents. We do not punish children for the crimes of their leaders. We fight to protect our people, not to destroy yours. That is the difference between us. That is why you will never defeat us, because we fight for something more than conquest. We fight for the future we want to build, not the enemies we want to destroy. She straightened her shoulders. But do not mistake mercy for weakness. Do not believe that our restraint today means you can continue this war without consequence. I am here to deliver a warning, not a surrender. Her eyes seemed to burn through the screen. You started this war. You thought we were prey. You learned we are predators. Now you will face Earth, all of Earth, forever. She held up a data pad. These are our terms: unconditional surrender, full reparations to the families of every person killed at New Eden, crimes tribunals for every officer involved in the massacre, including High Warlord Tethran himself, recognition of human sovereignty in all our territories, forever, complete withdrawal of all Valkyrie forces from human space. She lowered the data pad. These terms are not negotiable. Accept them and this war ends today. Refuse them and we will return, not with 47 ships but with 400. Not with 400, but with 4,000. Every year you continue this war, we will grow stronger. Every year you fight, you will grow weaker. Eventually, there will be nothing left of your empire but dust and memory. Her voice rang with absolute certainty. You have 1 hour to respond. Choose wisely. This is your final warning. The transmission ended. Silence fell over Velkar Prime. Silence fell over the entire Dominion. Silence fell over a galaxy that had just witnessed something unprecedented in 400 years of Valkyrie expansion. Someone had told them no. Someone had reached their home world and made them listen. Someone had proven that the Dominion was not invincible. In his command center, High Warlord Tethran sat alone. His advisors had retreated, too afraid to speak. His military commanders had no solutions to offer. His entire worldview had collapsed in the space of 8 months. He thought about the war he had started with such confidence. He thought about the massacre he had ordered with such satisfaction. He thought about all the reports of human resistance he had dismissed as impossible. He thought about the burning wreckage of 300 ships that now orbited his home world. He had been so certain of victory. He had been so sure that Humans would break like every other species. He had never imagined that anyone could make him feel what he was feeling now. Fear, real fear, the fear of someone who had awakened something he could not control. His personal communicator buzzed. It was a message from the Dominion Council, the civilian government that officially ruled the empire. He had ignored them for years, ruling through military power alone. Now, they were demanding he respond. He read their message. It was short and direct. Accept the human terms, end this war. Now Tethron wanted to refuse. He wanted to prove that the Valkyrie would never surrender to lesser beings, but he looked at the human ship hovering above his city and he knew the truth. The humans were not lesser beings. They never had been. He had simply been too arrogant to see it. If he refused, they would return, and next time they might not be merciful. He activated his communication system and prepared to speak a word that novel Valkyrie leader had spoken in 4 centuries, a word that meant the end of everything he had believed about his empire and his people. The word meant surrender. Admiral Chen received the response exactly 53 minutes after her ultimatum. She read it once, then twice, then set down her data pad and closed her eyes. It was over. The war was over. They had won. Around her, the bridge crew waited. In tense silence, they had followed her across the galaxy into certain death. They had given everything for this moment. The Valkyrie have accepted our terms, she said quietly. They surrender unconditionally. For a moment no one moved. Then Lieutenant Commander Park let out a sob, and suddenly the entire bridge was crying and cheering and embracing each other. 8 months of fear and grief, an impossible courage released in a single moment of overwhelming emotion. Admiral Chen allowed herself a small smile, then she opened a channel to her remaining ships. All vessels stand down. The war is over. We are going home. 1 year later, Admiral Samira Chen stood in a garden on the surface of New Eden. The colony was being rebuilt. New settlers had arrived. Children were playing in the fields again, though the fields were smaller now and the children were fewer. A memorial wall dominated the center of the garden, carved with 2.3 million names: Maria Santos, Elena Santos, every person who had died that terrible day. Remembered forever. Journalists had followed her here, curious about the woman who had won the impossible war. One of them asked if she regretted anything. She looked at the names on the wall for a long moment. I regret that. It was necessary, she said finally. I regret every life lost on both sides. I regret that the Valkyrie chose to start a war they could not finish. I regret that Maria Santos died holding her daughter, and that I could not save them. She turned to face the journalists directly. But I do not regret that we answered. Humanity learned long ago that evil flourishes when good people do nothing. The Valkyrie thought they could murder our children and face no consequences. We showed them they were wrong. We showed the entire galaxy that humans protect their own no matter the cost. She looked up at the sky, at the twin sons of New Eden, at the stars beyond. They started this war believing we were weak. They learned we are strong. They thought we would surrender. We taught them that humans never surrender. Now, every species in the galaxy knows the same lesson. You do not threaten Earth. You do not harm our people, because whatever comes for us, we come back harder. She placed her hand on the memorial wall, touching the names of the Dead rest now, she whispered, you are. Not forgotten, you will never be. Forgotten, and because of you humanity stands stronger than ever before. She walked away through the garden, past the playing children, past the new buildings, rising from the ashes, past the future that had been bought with so much blood and sacrifice. Behind her the memorial wall stood in the sunlight, a permanent reminder of what had been lost and what had been gained. The galaxy had learned the truth about humanity, and the galaxy would never forget.